Hello. Welcome to episode 382 of Sree's Sunday New York Times Read Along. It's December 21st. It's our last show of 2025, and we've got a good one. We're focusing on the year in pictures, all things Trump, and of course, all the news. Our host is Sree Sreenivasan, and my name is Neil Parekh. I am the executive producer and occasional guest host. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and our Digimentors website. Please like, comment, share, retweet, do all the things that you do on social media to make sure people find the show. Thank you to everyone watching on replay. We know that a number of people are not up or 8:30 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday mornings, much less earlier on the Pacific Coast, on the West Coast. But we appreciate everyone who comes back to watch the show. As I mentioned, we have the Year in Pictures from the New York Times, their annual piece, and we're looking forward to it. You can download a PDF of the Year in Pictures from our website, digimentors.group/NYT readalong. Go to our website, find today's show, and download the PDF. It's worth taking a look at to see what the print layout looks like. We always think that's interesting. We also want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Muck Rack and Graphic History Company. Thank you for all of your support. And of course, the show is produced by Digimentors, the consulting firm that Sree set up with his longtime colleague, Andrew Lee. And I'm proud to be a vice president of events and communications at Digimentors. We do digital marketing, events and digital programs like this one, strategic communications, trainings, and workshops. We also help with staffing and recruiting. We're also doing a lot of work around AI. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. And of course, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you press play on the video so that we see your comments if you put them on. We will be bringing on Sree in just a moment to welcome him back. We've been alternating almost a little bit. He was gone the last 2 weeks. He's back this week. And then, of course, we'll be taking a few weeks off for the holidays. So with that, let's welcome our host, Sree Sreenivasan. Sree.
Hi, Neil, and hello, everyone. Good morning. It's a beautiful day in New York City. I'm just going to show everyone the UN. That's the UN headquarters right there, and the East River. It's about 3 degrees Celsius, about 35 degrees Fahrenheit, but it looks so beautiful. I am back in New York City after a week away teaching journalism at Lewis University, which is in Rome, and they have a fantastic international master's degree in journalism and communication, electronic communication, and it's taught in English, and it's a great gateway to Italy, Europe, and the world. And it's very different from the US, as you can imagine. And by the way, for the last week, I've been just hearing from non-Americans about what they think about America, and that's been something, as you can imagine. And so I'm trying to explain what's happening here is so difficult. Another thing everyone's interested in overseas is Zoran Mamdani. And so we had a lot of conversations about him and whether he can live up to everything. We also joked, of course, that his last name, Mamdani, sounds a little Italian, but it isn't. We have some great people, as always, getting up early or wherever they are in the world, watching with us. So we want to say hello. I want to say hi to Ken Fisher, who's watching from East Central Iowa. Thank you, Ken, for being here. Diane is watching from a sunny part of South Jersey. Welcome. Jonathan, always watching from the East Village, and says happy holidays. We can also say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah. We can say all of those things. Trump somehow thinks that you were not able to say Merry Christmas all of these years, which of course we could. And I want you, Neil, to say hello to this person.
Good morning from Tampa, Florida. Beautiful weather in Tampa, says my mom, Sudha Parekh. Hi, Mom. How are you doing? We've talked a few times this week, Sree. It's not just the Sunday morning hello. I just want to make sure people know about that. And my sister is actually visiting Tampa as well. So I don't know if she got in late last night. I don't know if she's going to be watching this morning. But I want to say hi. And Mom, I hope that you're doing better from the little dust up you had earlier in the week. So she had a little bit of not a car accident, but a little bit of a breaking and a little bruising. But she's doing well, which is good.
Auntie, cheering for you. We hope you're okay, and we'll do even better. Jonathan says he usually says happy Christmas. Okay, happy Christmas to you, Jonathan. Mary C. Curtis, longtime friend of this show, who's been on many times, and I think, Neil, in the new year we should have her back if she's willing to join us, just to catch up on what a crazy year it's been. She says, love sharing this holiday show with good friends from Charlotte, North
Yes.
Carolina. Check out her columns and her posts as well, please. And Stephen Kaplan's watching. Good morning. I never miss the year in pictures read along. I still remember the year pre-pandemic when we were at the Museum of the City of New York and went over all the phenomenal pictures that year. That's right. In
Yes.
2019, December, before we knew the world would be changing, we all got together at the Museum of the City of New York, and we had a wonderful time reading the newspaper, walking through the exhibits there. It was just a fantastic day. We had no idea how much we would miss opportunities to do things like that very quickly after that. We have a lot to talk about, folks. There's so much happening in the news. There's so much news out of DC. I'm in the midst of just writing up my newsletter for the year end. And I want to just remind everyone that the newsletter is at Substack. It's sreenet.substack.com. Last week, I wrote what was really a depressing piece to write. Forget visiting the USA as a tourist. There are countries that actually want you to visit, so go there instead. Tourists, Neil, bring $200 billion plus to the US economy, and everything Trump's doing, from asking for 5 years of social media background, even for people who don't need visas, to checking people's health, diabetes, obesity ratings, etc. All of this is going to cause people not to want to come here. And I'm telling them, don't come unless you have real business to do here. What do you think, Neil?
Well, I was going to ask you about the golden visa that Trump is pushing, which I can't remember. Was it 100,000 or $1
No, it's
million?
I think it's 5 million. It might be,
Or
it might even
5
be
million or
$5 million.
something?
Yeah, there are already ways in which you can give upwards of $1 million or more to create a business. You have to kind of invest in order to create a business that employs at least 10 Americans, and then you get a green card and a path to citizenship. And that is going to be replaced by this program, at least that's as far as we know. And the difference is you don't have to make an investment in jobs. So at least the other program, nominally 10 Americans were getting jobs. And so the jobs president is now doing this just to kind of make it easier for the super rich who already have ways to live in different countries around the world, offering America as an option. And so I am not happy at all, as you can generally tell. But I hope folks will check out the Substack. It's at sreenet.substack.com. And I'm in the process of writing this week's, which is look back at the year and a look ahead at the year of what we can expect. Do we really know? Of course we don't. And that's the reality of how things are in this particular year. It's also upsetting, Neil, and problematic. But let's say hello to other folks. John Lee is watching. Greetings, John, and everyone check out his podcast. Doug Levy is watching from LA. Neil, he's up at 5:38
Yes,
a.m.
always.
Always amazing. Patricia is saying grace and greetings from New York. Thank you. You're all part of our Read Along family, and we're so grateful to all of you for being part of that family. And speaking of family, my father, Sree Sreenivasan, is watching from Kerala in India. I can't always tell exactly where he is because he travels much more than I do. and is very busy with lectures and his own TV. He has a real TV show on a real network, the largest Kerala-based network in the world, and he is doing interviews and all of these things. So thank you. And by the way, the word Monu means son. So he's saying that's what he calls me. So thanks. Acha is what I call him. Thanks for being with us as always. And Neil, as he does, is going into the different channels we're on. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc., and is able to annotate the conversation. So you can find links as we're talking. Here's his LinkedIn, here's the Facebook. So if you're in any of those channels, you can see his notes coming in. Mary's last column spoke of the dangers when we judge entire groups by the actions or supposed actions of a few. Wonder if certain countries can be barred from the World Cup in the US. That's a great point. Thank you,
Interesting.
Mary.
That's interesting. One of the things I was going to say, Sree, is I think it was last week we heard the news that the Seattle Pride game in in June, they scheduled a Pride game on the World Cup without knowing who the teams are going to be, which nations are going to be playing. Then they did the draw, and the two countries that were randomly picked for that game, Egypt and Iran. Two very anti, incredibly homophobic. Being gay is a crime. Just can't imagine what that's going to be like. The pros and cons of going forward with that game as the Pride game. That'll be interesting to see.
And some of these countries, as Mary says, I haven't checked the list of the original. There were the original banned country or countries with restricted travel, and now they've added many more countries to that. So I think it's up to 30 now. Tourism is something like the 6th largest industry in the U.S. Yet conservatives in general and the GOP in particular has never done anything to encourage it and frequently do things to undermine it. So he's saying there's a little bit of history here on that. I thought they were pro-tourism, especially in places like Vegas, where Trump's no tax on tips policy, I think, won him a lot of support. And tourism, of course, is very big there. Folks, keep sending in your comments. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us what you're doing on this Sunday. And we have Pradnya watching as well from Silver Spring. We want to get to the paper, but we do want to say hi to Ellen watching from the Upper East Side. And Pradnya says that Jonathan is very British if he says Happy Christmas, and then he says yes, a Britishism, but once used in New England as well, or one used in New England as well. So I did not know that. See, we're learning so much. And Ted is watching on YouTube from Washington, D.C., home now of the Trump Kennedy Center, one of the horrifying things that have happened this year. Any one of these things would have been global news and a global scandal, but there are so many of these things that we just move on because there's just no time to discuss or process any of this because the next horrible thing comes along. So I think, Neil, we're ready to look at the paper, and I want to just show everyone what a beautiful day it is out there. Though it is cold, it's about 35 degrees Fahrenheit and 3 degrees Celsius here, but this blue sky is just amazing. That's the UN, the tall building, UN headquarters. That's the East River. That's Long Island City over there, and that's Roosevelt Island right in the middle. For those of you who haven't been to New York in a while, those buildings you're seeing there, that cluster in Long Island City, there was one tall building for the last 40 years there, just one skyscraper or one building above 25 floors. Now look how many there are. It just shows you how much the world, or at least New York, keeps changing. Okay, let's see what's on the front page of the Times. The headline is, "A rallying cry for Democrats is hitting home. Affordability issue. After stumbling, party finds message while GOP catches up." Story on a second term looking more like a reign, REIGN. Trump is testing limits in policies and profits. And the year in pictures section which we will be looking at in depth, is available exclusively as a PDF on our website. So please go to digimentors.group, look for that New York Times read along button, and there you will find this episode and you will find the year in pictures. You can download it. Of course, it's available if you're a subscriber online in the web format, but a PDF is exclusive to us thanks to our friends at the New York Times. So very grateful to them for sharing it with us. So please go and grab it while you can. Deadly import floods Canada. American guns. And transplant tourists pay richly for U.S. organs. Hospitals running ads abroad in a shortage. This is, Neil, a very important story. Speaking of tourism, turns out that an American hospital can get up to $2 million from very rich foreign tourists who are willing to pay for transplants while knocking off Americans from the waiting lists. So that's something that we should be paying attention to. New change in the old guard. Performers at the unveiling of U.S. coins. The Treasury rejected a call to diversify honorees. I know there was a plan to use Donald Trump on a coin for the
Yes.
250th anniversary. I don't know if that's part of this story. There is a rule that no living people can be on currency, but Trump is trying to find a way around that. And from crypto fraudster to jailhouse lawyer, Bankman-Fried finds new calling. And this is the famous Sam Bankman-Fried, who was the crypto fraudster, as it says right there. Let's see, what are the other sections? This is the year in pictures, which we'll be coming to shortly. And the Sunday business covers long-haul trucking was a sick refuge until now. 2 high-profile crashes and a Trump administration crackdown have worried this immigrant group and have made them wary as well. This is really big story because I don't think most people know how many Sikhs in America are such a dominant part of the trucking industry. We're also used to, Neil, seeing Sikhs wearing a turban and a beard, and a lot of Sikhs in America and elsewhere don't always wear that. So you may not know you're looking at a Sikh person when you see them. And by the way, here's a pronunciation point. I have preferred to say Sikh when talking about
Yeah.
Sikhism to Americans because that's easier to understand. But Sikh people who are from the religion, many of them who do say Sikh to Americans will say the right way to say it is Sikh. So the problem is when you're pronouncing it, and in America with all its issues, you hear it differently. So that's why I prefer to say Sikh, but I've been corrected multiple times by folks who say, say it the right way. But I'm still having problems with that. What do you think?
That I appreciate you sharing that, Sree, because that's the first time I had heard that. And in fact, when I heard you say it, I'm thinking to myself, Sree, it's Seek, like Seek.
Yeah.
That's the only pronunciation that I'd ever heard.
Right.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah, and this is where maybe, and I'd love to hear from any folks who are watching who know better, including Punjabi speakers. All Sikhs are Punjabi, but not all Punjabis
Yeah.
are Sikh. I'd like to hear what they think. It also might be a kind of progressive versus traditionalist, or a different way of, like, you want to adjust, so you say the words differently, the names differently. I don't know. I'd love to hear from folks who may know. By the way, here's Pradnya says maybe focus on non-crazy news if you can find any. All right. Well, here's to those who shape style. 67 trendsetters whose looks or swagger this year offered new ideas for self-expression. So, Neil, I expect to see you on this list. I presume you're among the 67. Fighting feminism, not femininity. Some young women on the right are rejecting the career culture they grew up in. Oh God, this is more about trad wives and things like that. By the way, the most famous trad wife of today is Erica Kirk, who has had
Yes.
multiple jobs, has a full career. She's not a trad wife, but she keeps telling women that that's what they should be doing. So there's yet another, sense of hypocrisy in Trump land.
So, Sree, just want to go back one moment to our conversation about pronouncing the word Sikh. Our friend Simran Jeet Singh actually tweeted about this several years ago, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. For those wondering, the correct pronunciation of the word Sikh is with a short I and an aspirated K, just the way you were describing it. Sounds most like the English word sick, but his explanation, another common pronunciation of Sikh is with a long I, as in the English word Sikh. This is a later distortion of the original, likely a remnant from European colonialism. While both forms are used in modern English, the pronunciation from the original Punjabi is preferred.
So I
Simranjit
can
Singh
see
is,
why, I can see why people would, who agree with him and want it to be like him. They'll say, we don't say Hindu the way Americans like to say it sometimes, or the British used to say Hindu or Muslim, right? Though a lot of people still say Muslim or other things. It's Muslim and it's Hindu. So why can't we say Sikh? The problem to me is, and to my ear, is that to most Americans, it will sound like you're saying the word Sick, and that's not helpful. So I'd love to hear more about this, but thank you, Simran, for posting that back in the day. And as I said, this is what they want us to say, and how that fits in. It's the way people do with names and things like that. Our daughter's name is Durga, and most people say that. But some people try to overcorrect and say Durga, like they just go all in, or Krishna, like they go all in. And so, this is what is about language. It's about assimilation. Lots of issues around this. Okay, let's see here. The race to build on the Sunday Opinion cover is across Silicon Valley. Teams of computer scientists are working to create the most engaging AI companion and win the battle for AI dominance. So this is something your daughter would recognize. These what do they call these? Charm bracelets?
Yeah.
I heart ChatGPT, Agent Era, AI Bestie, Fine Tune Me, Team Claude, Big LLM Energy, Gemini Forever, Prompt Queen, The World's BFF by Stephen Witt. Okay, that sounds interesting. And there are so many options with AI, right? It's hard to kind of keep track of all of them. And the book review cover is Fight the Power in the Fire. The reporter Cecilia Sala travels to Iran, Ukraine, Afghanistan, and follows her generation into the fray. Neil, I just did it there. I said Afghanistan instead of Afghanistan, which most people say, or Pakistan instead of Pakistan. But one person, one very prominent non-Pakistani who says Pakistan is Barack
Fareed?
Obama.
Barack.
Fareed too, but Barack, because he had a Pakistani roommate. So he says Pakistan instead of Pakistan, which the only time it's ever said that way from the podium of the White House. All right, that's the book review. Arts and leisure. Stand-ups are becoming big stars with family-friendly material. Where's this family-friendly material? I don't see much of that. Comedy so clean you can bring the kids. Wow, I did not know that. Are you familiar with this?
No.
Because most comedy is not family friendly. At least most shows are not. Okay, the New York Times Magazine. They don't see us as human inside the dark corners of the global fertility industry. So that's, I guess, Americans and others getting surrogacy or fertility pregnancies being done. The Metropolitan cover is his fight is access to transit. An MTA official knows from experience that the subway is a challenge in a wheelchair. Neil, remind us about the Metropolitan section. What is it exactly?
In terms of
availability,
what it covers?
Yeah, and how it's available.
So it certainly covers the New York City metropolitan area. But what's, as far as the New York Times is concerned, in terms of the distribution, one of the things to note is that it's, to get national distribution, it's printed at almost 27 different printing plants around the country. The Washington Post handles the paper, the New York Times for me here in the DC area. I remember the Seattle Times, etc. And outside of New York, we don't get the metro section, real estate, or sports. We get, within the A book, within the front section, just a few pages of each of those sections. So occasionally there's some really special features in the metro section that I don't get to share with folks when I'm hosting. But we do get to have national distribution. The other thing that's interesting to note is for special features, the Year in Pictures, for example, or the big report on the CIA leaving plutonium up in the Himalayas for folks who joined us last week. The cookie inserts. The New York Times has to send those 10 days in advance to the plants across the country, the printing plants, to make sure they can get inserted. Either they get sent and they get printed locally, or in some cases, if I'm not mistaken, some things can only be printed at the College Point printing plant, particularly the big gatefold inserts, the cookie inserts, etc. Those are printed in New York and then shipped by truck across the country, so they can be inserted into each paper.
Sounds so unlikely, Neil, considering that we live in such a digital world that they have to ship things like that.
Well, that's because of College Point, because the printing press is so incredible there.
And we've had 2 tours live on camera. When we met Mike Connors, the production manager there, it was so much fun to do a read along, not on a Sunday, and to do it from there. This is also the point in which we always say this show, features the New York Times, but it's not about the New York Times. It's about news, information, the fight against disinformation and misinformation. We have done this show reading the Washington Post, the Toronto Globe and Mail, the Khaleej Times in Dubai, lots of different local papers, and we want this to be about supporting local news. You don't have to subscribe to the New York Times, but we would love for you to subscribe to your local paper. If there isn't one, a regional paper, because this is one of the ways we can support good journalism and also fight all the forces that have really poisoned this country in so many ways. So please support journalism any way you can. And we both subscribe to the print New York Times, and that's why we do it this way. It's the easiest thing for us to do on a Sunday morning, but we want to do more with other papers as well.
I want to give a quick shout out to a friend, longtime viewer, Mark Lee, watching from Durham, North Carolina on Instagram. Mark, it's been a while since we've had you comment on the show. Thank you for saying hi. And he says his comment was Trump is very scary, which I certainly agree with that. There's a lot that we're going to cover as far as Trump is concerned this week. I mean, if you go back, Sree, there were his comments around Rob Reiner's murder. His post was just crazy. There was his speech, which was, maybe even, I don't know if it was crazier. And then you mentioned at the top of the show, changing the name of the building to the Trump Kennedy Performing Arts Center. And the next day, they actually put his name on the building. Forget about an act of Congress. Forget about the niceties. And I thought my favorite post on that was Kerry Kennedy saying that she looks forward to going out there in 3 years and 1 month with a pickaxe and a union card to take down those letters.
Yeah, on top of everything else, the grammar is wrong. It now says the Donald J. Trump, the John F. Kennedy Center. So that doesn't make any sense. By the way, one of their excuses for this is that the board unanimously chose this. This is obviously board stuffed with his sycophants, but it wasn't unanimous. One of the folks on there who has come out and said that whenever anybody opposed to the motion wanted to speak, they would just mute her, and she was not allowed to say anything. So that's one way to get unanimity, if you just don't let anybody speak. And like right now, I could mute you, Neil, and just keep saying, Neil agrees with everything I say. And that's just exactly what they did. But we're kidding around here. They're doing it in a way that affects the entire country and beyond. We want to, before we go to the rest of the paper, I just want to go back to our conversation about the pronunciation of the religion Sikhism and trying to understand. So Jonathan, so the discussion has been many folks who follow the religion have asked us to say Sikh instead of Sikh. And here's what Jonathan says. I've heard of the preferred pronunciation as Sikh before, but doesn't seem to have reached critical mass yet. Patricia says she pronounces it Sikh. Pragna says Americans can adjust their hearing and thinking, so she wants us to follow the right way. Miriam says it's hi from Hell's Kitchen. Jay is watching from DC. Thank you, Jay, for being here and watching on Facebook. Our dear friend Paula Kiger is watching from Tallahassee. She's got the Santa avatar. Love the hat.
Long-time producer.
Yes.
Long-time producer of the show.
Yeah. And Pragna says she's already committed to join Kerry Kennedy with to join her with tools and a union card. And one of my favorite things about the Kennedys and the Trump, somebody put up a picture of the Kennedys and it said Camelot, and then showed the Trumps, it said Scamalot. So I thought that works. It's true. And Mary says the lack of humanity, of empathy that is becoming normalized is so disturbing. I completely agree that that's one of our biggest problems and something that we all have to pay attention to. So before we go back into the paper, let's just look at this section here. The real estate cover is not just another super tall. JP Morgan Chase's new global headquarters on Park Avenue stands out on the skyline with its dynamic LED lights display. So here you can see they're doing something for King Charles's 77th birthday. And this is actually right, I see this from my bedroom, but it's right outside on just near Grand Central Station, if you know where that is, if you're watching and you're familiar with New York. So this is the real estate section. So let's go back and let's see what are the news items we should be talking about. Sorry. Oh, there you go. And the main headline is about affordability. Neil, what do you find when you're out shopping, doing the groceries? Do you find prices high? To me, some things are lower than they were before the elections last year, such as eggs. But I don't shop for gas. I don't shop for other things, so I don't know. But I see other things like yogurt, really sky-high pricing.
I think that for us at least, the way that we measure that, because we're in the middle of a kitchen renovation, we're eating out a lot more than groceries. It's a little challenging to cook when you don't have a proper kitchen. But eating out has gone up tremendously. Just not just in the last year, but over the last several years. And so I think that the interesting thing for me is more around not just in terms of the personal experience, but again, what the political discourse is like. One of the charts that I saw online is how, and I think this might be in the Times, this might be in the paper. Yeah, it is. If you turn when you get to the inside of the paper, that lead story about affordability shows how the Democrats have been talking about it much more frequently just in the last 2 months, not even in the last 3-4 months. The chart that they feature is that between June and October, there are only 15 mentions in congressional emails, the newsletters they send out. And in November and December, that went up to 70. So it really is interesting how the discourse, and I'm curious about, from an economic perspective, if we do have any data from anywhere, since the Trump administration has been messing with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, et cetera, can you measure affordability and the political discourse? How long after affordability becomes an issue does it actually become a political issue? it's a lagging indicator in terms of when it shows up in emails. So I'm more interested in that.
Sure, and we should give credit to Zoran Mamdani for making affordability an issue starting in last January, when he started his campaign with his 1% recognition, name recognition, and he became, of course, the mayor of New York City. He starts on January 1st, so there's going to be a lot of interesting things happening around that time.
I would actually a yes on Zoran Mamdani, but I would go back to 2019 and Jimmy McMillan. The rent is too damn high. That's when we started this conversation. We just haven't finished it.
Yeah, I still remember him. Second term looking more like a reign. REIGN. Trump is testing limits in policies and profits. By the way, why I'm spelling it out is we are now an audio podcast as well. People have been asking for this for 10 years of our show. People have said, do you have an audio podcast? And now we do, on both on Spotify as well as on Apple Podcasts. Please search for Sree Sunday New York Times Read Along, and we would love to have you follow us there, give us a like, give us a rating. All of that stuff helps get us discovered by other people as well. So it's now a crisp 1 hour show, and it's an audio as well. So we try to do this, Neil. The way I make an excuse is that Rachel Maddow's show does very well as an audio podcast, and 60 Minutes for decades, it may still be doing it. It used to run an audio simulcast on the radio. And if you were traveling for the weekend and weren't home by 7 p.m. Sunday night to watch TV, you could just listen to some 60 Minutes on the radio. And it was something I've done so many times over the years. Let's see here. This is the Year in Pictures. Remember, we have an exclusive Year in Pictures document for all of you. The PDF is available, so please grab that from the Digimentors.group. Look for the New York Times Read Along button and look for today's show. Grab that. You'll want to keep it. It's a beautiful PDF of the section. Deadly import floods Canada, American guns. And so that's obviously an American export. Transplant tourists pay richly for U.S. organs. Hospitals running ads abroad in a shortage. So while we don't have enough organs for Americans who need them, we are advertising overseas because it's more profitable to get foreign tourists. Heart transplant patients in the U.S. typically spend months waiting for a donated organ, but Kayoko Hira was not a typical patient. Mrs. Hira, the wife of a hotel magnate in Japan, flew to the U.S. in September 2021, went to the University of Chicago Medical Center, and within days got a new heart from an American teenager who had died. Soon after, the New York Times found a charity run by her husband made a donation to a nonprofit group led by the heart surgeon's wife. It was the only time the charity has ever given money to an American institution, according to the website. More than 100,000 people in the U.S. are in need of a transplant. So this is where the American healthcare system, which is already in so much trouble and is broken in so many ways, prioritizing this, I think, is totally unacceptable. We complain a lot here about the Trump administration. This is not about the Trump administration. This is about the way late-stage capitalism works, and something that we should be paying attention to. Let's see some comments coming in. Jay says it's a travesty that the names of the memorials aren't protected from such unhinged actions. They are protected, but the protectee is Congress. If Congress is not willing to do anything, then they can do whatever they want. Sujana, Dr. Chandrasekhar says, I was just pointing out those lights from the JP Morgan Chase building to the family last night. Their building is right next to her office. She's a great ENT surgeon, folks. If you need one in New York, you know where to go. Pradnya says, next up, the Trump-Lincoln Memorial. I mean, Trump did end the Civil War, right? And Jonathan says, eating out is more expensive in New York as well. Mid-price restaurants are becoming rarer and rarer. Thank you for pointing that out. Pradnya says, oh, good, let's pervert philanthropy in the process as well. She's talking about this story about transplant tourists. Okay, New change in the old guard about the Treasury rejected a call to diversify honorees. And from crypto fraudster to jailhouse lawyer, Brankman Fried finds a new calling. This reminds me a little, Neil, of one of my favorite movies. It's The Shawshank Redemption. I don't know if you've seen that, but I'm obsessed with that film. It's the number one, it's rated number one on IMDb's list of 250 greatest movies of all time, ahead of The Godfather and other films like that. And in it, Andy Dufresne, the character who's played by Tim Robbins, is a convicted murderer who turns into a jailhouse tax accountant, I think, more than a lawyer. Maybe he's a lawyer also. Yeah, he's a lawyer, but he does a lot of tax work, I remember. But I've seen that movie, I don't know, 20 times. Any other Shawshank fans here? Here to help. How to avoid an Airbnb disappointment.
Shawshank is brilliant, says Sujana Chandrasekhar. You were looking down, Sree, but wanted to make sure you saw that.
Thank you. How to avoid Airbnb disappointment. Search to get a sense of the area, read between the lines, dig into the reviews, salvage what you can. And Airbnb's algorithm prioritizes review the platform thinks you want to see, but users can filter reviews by their preferences and should read beyond the starred rankings. I later discovered a few 5-star reviews for our main listing that included complaints about lack of cleanliness, uncomfortably hot bedrooms, and failure to provide basic amenities. And they've got 5-star reviews. So that's problematic. Here's a quote from that story. The unfortunate reality is we don't have enough organs. When people jet in, get an organ, and jet home, it's a problem. It's not fair, says Dr. Max Fox, a former chair of the American Transplant System's Ethics Committee on International Patients getting priority over Americans. That's a big story. By the way, Neil, just want to comment on this Tiffany ad here on the front page in color on the front. Yes. They had for, I forget, was it 50, 60 years, an ad here that Stuart Elliott, the longtime advertising columnist of the New York Times, who was a guest on this show, told us about, but they've relinquished this and they run ads occasionally. But here you can see right on the front page.
More than occasionally, Sree, somewhat frequently, at least we focus on the Sunday print edition. They do a big wraparound ad. So if you look at the back page, it's a full page ad for Tiffany that continues, has that little strip at the bottom of the front page as well.
It's actually connected. Look at this. They actually connect it here. You can see the strip is connected, and then it's connected here to the front. Oh, interesting. Thank you.
I don't know how often, but I'd say definitely several times. I'd say even at least once a month that I've seen it.
Okay. America is getting an education in Bad Bunny, the amazing Puerto Rican musician who is going to be playing the Super Bowl this year in February. And many right-wing folks are upset. They said, we want an American artist. Well, he is American. He's Puerto Rican. And this is about his series. He did 8 shows in Mexico City, and 500,000 people from Mexico and around the world showed up at his concerts, moving heaven and earth and feet for a Bad Bunny show in Mexico. Left in the cold, she died. Is her boyfriend to blame? A case tests liabilities up in the mountains of Austria. This is about Austria's highest mountain, and the body of a woman was found near its peak in January. It's an unusual story. It's World Basketball Day. I had no idea. There's the NBA, the WNBA, the G League, which is the development league or the minor leagues. I don't know what NBA 2KL is. That's 2000 league, I guess. That's e-gaming, and I don't know what BAL is either, but it's World Basketball Day. Happy World Basketball Day, Neil.
And I will do a quick shout out. The YMCA is the ones that invented basketball. Alfred Naismith or James Naismith invented it at a YMCA, and they just announced a huge partnership with the NBA to celebrate the anniversary. Suzanne McCormick, if you remember, is the president and CEO of YMCA. She was a guest on this show. I knew her when she was the U.S. president for United Way worldwide. So
where you worked for many years,
for a number of years. An interesting connection there.
Very much so. Weakened Hezbollah is down but not out, and with attacks on oil tankers, Ukraine targets the Kremlin's war chest. By the way, speaking of war, we're headed to war with Venezuela, it looks like. And Trump is actively, you know how George Bush had to pretend it wasn't about oil when he did the second Gulf War? Now Trump is just directly saying it's about the oil.
Yeah.
Suspect spent weeks at Filipino hotel first. This is the story about the Bondi Beach attacks. Stunned suspects, multicultural neighborhood in Australia. Just a horrific story. I'm glad the heroic actions of the gentleman who jumped in, Ahmed Al Ahmed, has gotten a lot of attention and hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars raised on GoFundMe. U.S. strikes across Syria set hurdles for its leader. The leader had been here. The former most wanted terrorist was here and welcomed to the White House. So I wonder how, that's what that story is about, how they're dealing with America now attacking parts of Syria. Taiwan subway attacker planned deadly spree. I did miss this. Investigators are unsure of stabber's motive, but he said he prepared meticulously. Christmas markets have new traditions, security barriers. In Rome, as I walked by one of these places, one of these markets last week, I was looking at the security there. By the way, the story about the guns on the front page, going to Canada, a gun bought in Florida for $500 can fetch $4,300 in Ontario. That's an incentive, clearly. A Kenyan system exploited these working women and more like them. A year-long investigation by the Times of how and why officials looked the other way. And these are women sent overseas to Saudi Arabia and other countries. And they kind of look away even though they're being exploited and assaulted and attacked. On edge over rejection of anniversary coin designs. Pilgrims and presidents chosen over suffragists and civil rights figures. And the Treasury Secretary spurned a committee's recommendation to honor civil rights figures such as Ruby Bridges, left, and Martin Luther King Jr. Items featuring both were on sale at the Constitution Center's shop. Helping families keep their land and serve the environment. That's a good story. And a tribe bridges a gap for electric vehicles. I think this is a good series they're doing, Neil. 50 states, 50 fixes. This is North Dakota. I think it would be great once they're done with the 50 states to do one of their special sections so that people, it could be a book.
Could be a book.
Some good ideas there as well. All right, let's pick up the pace here if we have to finish. In
we want to get the year in pictures.
Yes,
year
of course.
in pictures in.
So we're going to drop this and move to the year in pictures. Thank you, Neil. Let me find the year in pictures.
We have a couple of comments as you're bringing it up.
Sure.
Sujana said she sent the PDF to her parents in India. She's sure her father is jonesing for his New York Times. So glad that we can share that with you.
How do we get it, Neil? Remind us.
You can get it from our website. If you go to digimentors.group/NYT read along, look for today's show and you'll find a link to the PDF. A note for folks, the PDF is rather large. It was like 120 megabytes before I reduced it. I put it on Google Drive so it's easier for people to get to. So there's a link from our website and you can download it. John Lee says, and we should make a little time for this, Sree, when we talk to the year in pictures, we should also make sure to reference the Vanity Fair White House portraits. I have those teed up just to take a quick look before we
I'll navigate, Neil. You talk us through this.
Sure. So the year in pictures is incredible. It's actually a little harder to see online, Sree, for me, but it's an annual piece. And we've actually had a couple of years ago, we had Tanner Curtis join us on the show, one of the editors, to talk us through the process of how they chose the pictures. And that's an 8-month process. They're whittling down and I'm sure there's an editor's note from tens of thousands of pictures. They kind of organize it by time of year. And many of them are familiar pictures. Certainly the events will be familiar.
This
the
one, for
meeting
example.
with Mamdani and Trump. No, Zelensky and Trump, of course. I'm sure Mamdani and Trump is in there as well in November. But some of these pictures are so poignant, and they evoke whether it's the war in Ukraine, whether it's natural disasters. It really serves as a record for the year, a photographic record. I know that our friend Stephen Kaplan, who was an editor, photo editor at the Times, appreciates this special. This is a shot from Congress. I'm going to guess that's the State of the Union. I see Pramila Jayapal in the bottom right corner, and they're holding up a false kind of a sign, probably.
And it says
Must
Steals.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
Must be near State of the Union.
We're in February
What
now.
else?
This is February and March. This is the
February, March.
Syria.
Looks like a lot of Ukraine photos.
Ukraine, right? Syria, Congo, Damascus, Khartoum. And I was there at the beginning of Ramadan. During the first ceasefire, I went to Beit Lahia in the far north of the Strip to photograph the destruction of daily life there. This is Gaza. And you're seeing that.
Yeah.
And so they have the photographers often commenting on the photographs that they've taken. So we're in March, April, May, and now May and June. This is the Eaton fire destroyed their campus. 40 students at the Abbas School of Leaders came together for a spring musical, Alice in Wonderland. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Imagine doing that at this time. And honor guards rolled up the red carpet after President Trump's arrival for a NATO summit in the Netherlands. And here's the Pope with the MAGA brother, but he's not MAGA himself, thank God.
He has a MAGA brother? I didn't know that, Sree.
Yeah, MAGA brother who's already met Trump, who's a member of Mar-a-Lago, all kinds of things.
Wow.
Oh, and you remember this, June 14th, Army's 250th anniversary and President Trump's birthday.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Sree. When I flipped through it real quickly, I did not read the detail, and I'm looking at that. I'm thinking, when was there another Tiananmen Square? I don't remember this year. Where were that lineup of tanks like that?
Oh my God!
That's literally what went through my mind.
Well, speaking of Tiananmen Square and places like that, this is a No Kings rally, and the police dispersing protesters at a No Kings rally in LA. And now we're into July and August. And here, oh, look at this photograph. This is in Ukraine. A woman fled her apartment with dogs after Russian bombs exploded nearby. This is during the ceasefire talks that these things are happening. They'll make a proposal and then bomb Kiev or other places. We're now in August, September. This is Paris Fashion Week. Neil, look at that.
Yeah.
Don't know what to say. New York, Sophie Becker, 31, came to the city with dreams of becoming an actress. She's become a ventriloquist with her dummies Ronnie, pictured, and Jerry. And these two cute girls are looking over at this. This is about Sophie Becker, the actress turned ventriloquist. This is the Charlie Kirk story and the confusion and aftermath after the shooting at Utah Valley University.
Ken
And
Fisher says, sorry, some of the pictures are events I wish to forget. Certainly.
Absolutely. Here's the museum, the Louvre jewelry heist. It was sort of like a comedy, but of course serious. And here's the Mamdani picture. Wow. He's an extremely energetic candidate and is known for that giant smile. And this is a rally on October 26th, just before the election. September and October, the Army, the Pentagon brought back generals, 400 generals from around the world, and then told them many of them are too fat, and other criticism. Neil, you have to laugh because otherwise you will cry all year. That's the problem.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. agents used tear gas on an immigration enforcement operation in the south side of Chicago. And this is happening not far from where you live.
Yeah, the East Wing. That was a comment I shared with Jay in the comments. She was saying earlier, you can't believe that the Kennedy Center and others can be defaced the way they are. Well, look at the East Wing of the White House. Nothing stopping this current administration. That's a good metaphor, actually. The East Wing of the White House and America in general. It's a great metaphor for what we're dealing with.
And the back cover is Vatican City, an array of Catholic prelates in brilliant red robes lined up alongside heads of state, royals, and crowds of the faithful at the funeral of Pope Francis, the first South American pontiff. And then soon after, we had Pope Leo take his place.
Yeah. That's great. And it's interesting, the Mamdani picture was not didn't make the cut this year.
The one with Trump, yeah, because they had
Trump.
that other really big picture, so I think they went with that. Pope Leo is also, I believe, a baseball fan.
He is. He's a White Sox fan somehow.
First one in 2,000 years.
Right. So real quickly, Sree, I want to show those Vanity Fair pictures because they definitely were interesting, and we'll make it work a little bit bigger. Let's see if we can make that bigger on the screen. I want to make sure we don't cut it off. That's Susie Wiles. These are close photos, close portraits that were taken and that got some criticism. But this is the photographer. I mean, look at that picture of J.D. Vance. This is from the Vanity Fair website. The way that we're showing it. Stephen Miller. And Dan Scavino. Interesting side view. And then a couple other pictures from the shoot as well.
Do they have that like the family portrait of all of them sitting at the table? Do you have that?
They do. They have that at the very top. I skipped over that, but that's
so there was a great Twitter line where someone said, "This looks like a terrible law firm that faked accident victims for bus, for bus tragedies or something, like a law firm you would never want to go to." And from left is Catherine Levitt, J.D.
Carolyn
Vance.
Levitt. Yeah.
Sorry, Carolyn. Thank you, Carolyn Levitt, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. I guess that's Scavino, Susan Wiles, and who's that up on the upper next to Miller?
Susie Wiles. I don't know who the other folks are. Let me.
Scavino above Susan Wiles, and then
there's no caption on the photo.
And then of course Stephen Miller, who his own uncle told us, wrote in 2018, I believe, that his nephew's policies, if they had been in place when during World War II, his family would have been erased because they came here as refugees and immigrants. And Stephen Miller doesn't believe that we should give those same opportunities to other people. And definitely one of the most influential people in the U.S. Right now. All right, as we wrap up. Go ahead.
Sorry, Sree. I just wanted to also share some of the the comments that we're getting from Instagram. We got more comments than we usually get in the last for this show, so I just want to bring those up real quickly. We'll show them on the screen,
influential people
as best we can. A little
right now.
Small, but
all right. As we wrap up,
see whether we can. Sorry, Sree. I just wanted to. There we go. Mark Lee also share some of the saying hello from North Carolina from Instagram. Dana Conroy saying Trump's behavior in the wake of Rob Reiner's murder was so reprehensible for the discussing that every GOP member should be speaking out to object. Show them so far off the rails. Best we can. So upsetting. Small, but made reference to that. I want to see whether we can show. Sorry, Sree. I just wanted to. Mark Lee also share some of the saying he's asking about your son, North Carolina. Been keeping busy with saying Trump's behavior in the wake of Rob Reiner's murder was so reprehensible. Dana Conroy is commenting on Shawshank Redemption, one of my all-time favorite rails. So upsetting. And Mark Lee is talking more about basketball. McClendon, who coached at Central, was a Naismith disciple and created the Four Corners defense at the NCCU gym. So it's great to see the engagement on Instagram as well from folks. We also had a few folks commenting on Twitter. Anita Joe was asking earlier about, why would grocery prices come down? She didn't think that they would. And when we were talking about affordability earlier. Sree, we lost your audio. There we go.
That's because he promised that it would come down day one. He promised. Diana's watching from California, and here, Jay remembers the show with Tanner Curtis. Wow, that's quite a process, and thank you for remembering. Such great comments coming in. Pradnya says a picture's worth 1,000 words. And Mary says, a reminder, Rob Reiner decried the Kirk murder and was supportive of Kirk's widow's comments at the memorial. Reiner got no such kindness from Trump or those who wanted to punish any Kirk critic. Thank you all for a thoughtful year. Neil.
And I realized, so Pradnya put in the what was happening with the sound. I realize now, Sree, my apologies. What's interesting, when I shared the Instagram feed, we must have been getting the double audio. It's muted on my side. So when I share I don't hear that audio, but it comes through when you share the screen. So my apologies for that.
No worries. It's all good. Folks, we're wrapping up here. We want to thank everybody for watching. A reminder that we're going to be off the air for a couple of Sundays, but we'll be back January 12th. And we are looking forward to hearing about your take on the news and sharing what we read in the paper as well. We're going to also remind you about the fact that you can download the PDF of a year in pictures from our Digimentors website. So please go there and grab it. I also want to mention Neil's show, which he does, called Shining Light on Shadows, about mental health. They're going to be back next January, but in the meantime, go back and watch any of his episodes, but definitely the one they just did, the series about menopause and perimenopause with some great experts. You can find them on all of Neil's channels as well. So please take a look. And happy New Year, Sreeniverse fam. Thank you very much. And a highlight of 2025 is the New York Times reline. Oh, that means so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Sujana, we really appreciate it. And to everybody, we could not do the show. We would not do the show without everyone's enthusiastic support. And the way you can support us is to tell your friends and family to watch, tag them. They can watch this live or later. This is going to run as soon as it's over on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, etc. So you can watch it there, and as well as on the Digimentors website. And please, please, please go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and rate and review our show if you can. That will help us get more attention. This is a show we do out of love for the news and for all of you. And if we can get more sponsors, that will certainly help us do even more for all of you. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Neil, have a great Christmas holiday and very happy New Year to you and your family.
Thank you. You as well, Sree. And we look forward to seeing everyone in the new year. Jay Palaki said happy holidays and happy new year. And my mom, Sudha Parekh, also said thank you for 2025. We will see everyone in a couple of weeks. Take care and have a good holiday. Bye-bye.
Get the PDF.